Weissgraeber as well.
I'm just going to connect my phone here. So we're here to talk about the No XXX movement. I can hear an echo.
Okay, let's actually I'm using that microphone, but that should work. Is it good now, or?
Sorry?
Is the sound good?
Yeah, the sound is good now. I'm not hearing.
Yeah. Good morning. It's Casimir here from south of Sweden.
Yeah. So I don't know if you've seen your videos, but so Casimir and me and a few other friends, we're working together in these videos. So that's why I invited Casimir along. But so the invite for this session was about that we should talk about the various no movements that are around, such as no estimates, no requirements, no goats, and so forth. What is it that attracts you, Robert, to these no XXX things?
Yeah. In all the time I did software, it was always that we are always looking at having better methods, doing better things, especially with the estimation thing. You find so many literature, so many sessions, seminars, whatever, on doing estimation better, for example. And in my opinion, what we missed is to look at what we actually wanted to achieve and questioning what's the need behind that, what needs to be done. For example, we do the estimation to get to a plan, and we don't question, do we need that plan at all? And if you start questioning that, well, on the one hand, you have all these estimation things where there's a lot of, I would say, involvement of people who say, well, we need it to be done like this, or we need to have a plan, or we need to have a number to get somewhere. But by questioning what's the need of the person involved behind it, you get to try new methods, and you actually get a better software in the end. So. Well, that was the idea. What makes it attractive for me to talk about it and to try it out. And then, of course, I mean, especially with the no estimate thing, it's very easy to try, and then you start getting the first results, and you look at it and you say, well, this is actually better, or well, actually, you look at it and say, well, it's not working for me.
Okay, so I have yet to find a single customer who will go like, I'll write you a blank check, do whatever you want, deliver it when you want. You know, what they always ask for is, what will I get and when will I get it? How much will it cost?
Yes, and that's maybe that's a valid question. Doesn't matter, but that's if you're allowed to involve yourself and how to get there, then maybe you don't need estimates for that.
Do you think it's a difference between larger projects and smaller projects in this regard?
Well, that would require a definition of large and small, right? But in general, I would say it's easier in a larger project where you have a larger time frame, and B, you have the possibility to build trust for all parties involved, so that you start seeing success and that it's working, and you can concentrate on the important aspects and the important facts you need to achieve. And you see if you see success, you might not need to do all the motions you might need to do if you don't have any success in your project, or as your software or whatever. Mm-hmm.
So an interesting aspect of time, I read this in a PhD dissertation many years ago, was that there are actually at least 8 kinds of different time in consulting and software development, and that is starting with estimated time, perceived time, actual time, reported time, build time, paid time, and all of these are not the same. Even when we, for instance, actual time and perceived time are not the same. So that's an interesting area of time that makes time in itself very fudgy.
Yes, right, exactly. And if you stick to the estimation part, you always just actually estimate the time it needs you to build it. But the duration it takes you to deliver it might be something totally else, and might actually not depend on the people doing it.
You mean such that such certain things take certain amount of time?
For example, but if I ask you how much time it will take you to build a certain part of software, you might actually, even if you would know it or might be able to estimate it, it still depends, for example, on how many projects you are doing in parallel, how many task switching do you have, how is your personal condition on that day, or how is the team working on that day, or how is the company doing on that day, or that week, or that month. Maybe you have some team issues, and the duration of the performance is lower, and the duration goes is bigger, and that's something that you can't know at the point where you're estimating it.
So this is why some people say that it's not enough to just make a plan. We need to make actual simulations based on also past data and what our structure looks like. These people are saying that people don't like estimates because they're not using them right.
Yes, for predictions, simulations, that's one part, but in my opinion, it misses one important aspect. If we're doing software especially, we're not bound to physical conditions. For example, there's no reason to do a simulation if you just can't try to build it. You're not limited. It's not like building a house where I have to build a foundation first and then put up the walls and then I can put the electrics in. I mean, it's software. I can start with doing the electrics first and then I can build the house around it.
So an interesting thing, there's a company, they have about 800 software developers, most of them offshore, outsourced, and they have they have only one metric for the teams, and that is, will they, after the sprint, deliver what they said they would deliver at the beginning of the sprint? Not more and not less than what they said they would do. So keeping the commitment, that's the only thing they measure for their teams. And if they do estimates or not do estimates, that's not relevant to them. They only care about that you meet your commitment. How does that sound to you?
If they choose to commit on a lower level, they just say, well, actually, we could do 20 or 15 items, but just tell them about 8, and we will never miss that target.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, what they're saying with 800 developers, 100 teams, to them, speed is not as important as delivery precision.
Okay. And then, if that is the need of the business to if they say, we don't care about how fast we're going as long as we know it. If that is part of the business, that's a valid reason, I would say. Personally, I would question that. I would say, well, why do you need that high level of precision? What value does that have, or does it give you?
Okay, let's switch topic a bit and talk about no requirements. Well, I guess the first time I heard about no requirements was maybe 5 years ago. I was talking to someone in procurement who said, well, there are 5 standard packages on the market that we can choose from. And instead of evaluating the packages as they are, we spend a year to sit down and write requirements. And eventually we end up with lots of requirements that none of the standard packages can possibly meet. Would that be no requirements to you?
Well, that's one option for no requirement. I would actually say that's a kind of a more, I would not necessarily call it no requirements. I would actually call it like having a real world view, because I mean that's the experience I had as well looking at the software packages. But that's one of the very classic themes. If you look at software, that's basically a back to the make or buy decision. That idea is probably 200 years old or something.
Yeah, well, most ideas are many hundreds of years old. I just discovered a few weeks ago, and I think this is fantastic. Do you know how old the idea of e-commerce is?
No, actually not.
No, the first catalog was created in 1498.
Okay. Well, it took some time.
Yeah, and probably someone thought about it before, but so this was handwritten catalog, even before printing press.
Mm-hmm. But going back to the no requirements thing, it's the same idea of thought. Like, okay, we could talk about how we are doing requirements better, faster, whatever. That's improving the method part. Or on the other hand, we can question why do we need a requirement at that point? Your procurement contact, he discovered that actually he does not need the requirement because it does not help him at all to choose between these 5 products.
No, so in that case, it doesn't really help, because what would be much more helpful for him would be to try out, for instance, these 5 different available packages.
So is there a difference here about requirements that everybody has and requirements that are very specific to your situation? So when we talk about no requirements, it's more or less that we don't have any special requirements that differ from others. If we take your hen house as an example, Weger, you had a lot of requirements, and we even got more.
Well, but most of my requirements are legal and regulatory requirements for my hen house. Only very few are requirements that are unique to me. Did you see the hen house video, Robert?
No.
Oh, okay. Well, I'll send you the link. You can see it later. It's part 1. It's about putting home automation in my hen house, and all the requirements are about legal and regulatory compliance. Animal welfare and electrical safety, and so on.
Yeah, and these are not like criteria, good or bad or something. It's just a checklist which you cannot choose from, because, as you say, they're regulatory requirements. You just have to fulfill them, and every solution that you select has to do, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So no requirements. I coined the term no goats a while ago. I think maybe someone had it before, but I didn't see it before. The idea of no goats is that in software development we should not have goats in the project, because obviously goats will eat all the requirements, and they will not care about the estimates and so on. Casimir, you're making a lot of noise, which causes your screen to turn up. So it's let's say, a bit ironic maybe that it seems to me sometimes that many statements about, kind of obvious statements about no this or not that, no that, polluting the debate.
Yeah, and I think it's part of the, saying no to something in that kind of explicit wording is something that actually can be considered as not very constructive or yeah, well, it's something that is per se telling the others, well, I don't do this, never. Yeah, that's something if you follow the Twitter debate, for example, you see that the communication culture is not very open, I would say.
Well, I think that's why we need to talk online and with high bandwidth. It's extremely hard to, even with email, when you could write long pieces of text, people misunderstood each other. In Twitter, with 140 characters, it's almost impossible to not misunderstand each other.
Yeah, and yeah, right. And I think the whole NoXXX part is something that is a high involvement method. So if I say no estimates, if I say no projects or no requirements, then I need to involve myself with all the other stakeholders in a very, very high frequency, high bandwidth, and high involvement manner. Because then if I decline to do something like putting up a plan, putting up a estimation or requirements list, then I need to replace it with something else. And to learn what that could be and does it work, it needs that involvement. And that involvement is not always wanted or even possible. For example, if I would do a large-scale project, which is mainly considered with very specific small part teams which have their own which don't communicate, and you don't have that feedback channel to stakeholders, it would be nearly impossible to suggest something like no estimates or no requirements.
So, have you heard about extreme contracts?
Again, I didn't get that.
Extreme contracts. It's a concept from Jacopo Romei, which is the idea is that you commit for a week, and the team delivers what they deliver, and if the customer doesn't like it, well, then you end the contract. And so, are there any requirements? Are there any estimates? The customer doesn't care because they only look at the value and the price tag for the team.
Yeah, that's one part, and actually now by the company who does, they even start working without having a formal offer or contract. They just show what they did in 2 weeks, and tell the customer, well, if you like it, you pay it and you get it. If you don't, well, we try something else.
We made a variant of this a few weeks ago, 1.5 months ago, and working with pre-design, and the customer didn't know what to expect, he didn't know what he want, and we said, yeah, here is a 5-week plan, but we evaluate on a weekly basis to see, is this what you want? And after 3 weeks we change our plan. So this is a little bit when you don't have the requirements, no formal project planning, just working on a task on a weekly basis. But question is, do you get no results? I think we got results.
And you probably got paid.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I guess it's beginning to get to the time when we wrap this up, and just ask if there are any of the viewers who want to add any question. There was a question in advance from Peter who asked how can the customer trust you when you don't say how long it will take?
Yeah. Well, actually, I mean, I would not expect him to trust me per se. That would be, I mean, that's possible in some human connections that we just have that trust, but we need to find a way to build that trust first, whatever that is. That is, I mean, if you're working in an organization or company, you can build the trust over all the time you work together. If you start with a new customer contract or a new customer, you have to try to build that trust. And that's where the software part, or as Casimir said, as Casimir showed in this example, comes in. Well, maybe you just try to build something. Start with a smaller one where you actually just allocate some time. Say, well, let's try 2 weeks, 4 weeks, 6 weeks, and try what we can deliver. And then you start building that trust. And if you have that situation where you gain that trust, and actually, for me, I gain trust in the customer as well, because I know that his business ideas are valid, that the product itself will be successful, and we have that trust, and we have the involvement that we as software experts can involve ourselves in what's happening out there. Then I think that a situation where no estimates and no project is possible, real, and it works. Yes.
Okay, so thank you very much for this very interesting chat. And after this, I think we're going to try to do an edited version, and we'll post that on the Architecture Corner YouTube channel, I think. And it was very interesting talking with you, and you know, so many of these topics that we weren't able to cover in this short time. So I hope we can maybe continue in a few months from now. Thank you.
And see you in the next time in the class. Right. Okay, thanks, Gregor. Thanks, Casimir. Goodbye from Germany.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.